Thanks everyone for joining the Node.js Community Committee meeting for Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. We have a relatively short agenda this week. So, that's a thing. I don't expect this meeting to go the full length, although I could be wrong. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started with initiative updates. Anyone have updates from their various initiatives?
Yeah, I can go for mentorship.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah. So making some good progress on the challenge for examples for finding that mentee. We've created a reference solution API that does a lot of things that you and I talked about, Tierney. So we'll probably get that turned into like an actual challenge repo along with the application form in the next week or so, which is pretty cool. And then other than that, our mentee, Adamola, he drafted up a blog post that should be pretty good. That's like the updates of how how our team has changed since, I don't know, whatever the original blog post was, and kind of probably announcing the initiatives, the example opening soon. And so, yeah, so that's all looking good. I think that's it from us.
Cool.
I have updates I could give from website redesign.
Go ahead.
So our updates have been that if for me and Ben, right now what we're doing is we have been doing when we have the website redesign meetings, since the past couple of weeks we haven't been getting anyone. It's just been me and Ben. So what we have been doing is we've been making it as a working session. So we work through issues and problems that we are trying to solve. And we have been pushing to try to get new members in. And I spoke with me and Joe. I actually had a conversation last week about it. Joe could fill in, and we have been trying to see what ways we can actually get more people involved. So we have been clearing up issues, but also been trying to solve, the issues that already exist for us.
Yeah, I would say in terms of getting new folks in, I think that the best thing to do would be to have clear on-ramps for folks who are getting started. And I know that takes, some effort, some planning, some kind of working through where you're at in different areas and having issues clear for folks to jump in. If you want to talk about that, ping me offline. And, if you feel like you have that in place, or when you feel, if or when, let me know, and I can try to help, drive some more folks to the effort, knowing that there's clear ways for them to get involved.
Sure, will do.
Great, thanks, Divya.
I think that, yep, cool, sounds good. Any other updates?
Yep, I'll also be taking you up on that sometime soon, Joe, to work towards more active participation. But I'll give an update on the internationalization effort, kind of break down real quick between the three concerns, which are internationalization, localization, and globalization. So on the internationalization side, we've had some steady work on the infra. Things are pretty much set up between Crowdin and our repository, but there's a long way to go to have a steady integration with the website. There's been thought and effort towards that, but I think the biggest thing we need is to pick up more cross participation with the website group, identifying milestones for releases, etc. With the localization, next wave is similar to the website, getting better contributing guides and funnels for localization participants to get involved. Primarily through Crowdin is the best way. So I'm imagining making contribution documentation and videos and that sort of thing, or just making our contributing guides better is a good first step. But people are going to, since they're not going to be living in GitHub, they'll need something a little bit more accessible for them. you know, and then other resources like how to manage a localization group, etc., things like that. And then after that, the general outreach and funneling into localization work. And then on the globalization side, Stephen Loomis, who has been one of the sole folks working on ICU in Node, is shifting focus since he has left IBM and is now working in Unicode, or working on contract for Unicode. So he's going to be working primarily on the CLDR project. We are transferring ICU modules, or there's an open issue, and it seems like it has general approval and consensus that we can transfer some of the ICU modules that he's been working on into the Node.js project. However, that's going to create the need for sparking more reciprocity around supporting ICU and Node. So we're going to be working, and hopefully other people will be working with Stephen to create contributing resources to get involved with, you know, to maintain better participation for globalization in Node, you know, for the NTL object, primarily ICU support and etc. But yeah, that's kind of a broad picture of where we're at with the three concerns.
Great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Any other updates?
I have for Node.js collection, but we also have it in the agenda. So let's just go with the agenda, and I'll share.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Any others?
The next section is CPC and board meeting updates, so we can get into that if
I have a couple, and like I also don't know where I realize I should probably update. I don't know, like I normally shove moderation into like this space. So
Yep.
I will quickly do moderation, then also do social team, since that's something that we haven't really established like a process for, but it's something we should probably do. Let me open up the moderation log real quick. Just quick log update as we are supposed to do. We blocked a bot. We took a few actions against a specific user in moderation issue 354. We received a CSC report from a user regarding interaction on social media. We received a email to note the report email address about BLM page asking if we'd be willing to expand it to be more broad, and decided not to engage after this discussion with the team. Blocked a spam commenter, blocked another spam commenter, and another user blocked. All of those have moderation issues except for the email about the BLM page. So yep, those are all logged in issues. Cool. And then the just I guess a social team update. One, we brought on Joe as the second social team member.
Oh, sorry.
Yay.
I thought I was on mute. Sorry.
So yeah, now there's two people and the workload is spread, which is nice. I think we're still relatively getting a grip on things and trying to figure out how to kind of approach it as a project voice rather than a foundation voice, because very fundamentally different things. I think we're doing an okay job so far. And I would also like to share that there is now the tweet repo. I have gone through and set up the proper tooling, gone through and connected the API stuff. So that is now a thing that works. If, say, someone wants to tweet, hey, we have good first issues in internationalization or something else, you can just go ahead to Node.js/tweet. There's a tweets repo, so it's tweet/tweets. I like tweets. I don't know why that. I love that so much. I don't know why it works like that. But yeah, you just create a .tweet file, and there's basically a guide in the README there, and it will the README of that subdirectory, and it'll kind of guide you through how to do that. The social team is the one that manages that, so we will absolutely review your PRs. Oh, hey, there's 2 PRs that I have not seen. Cool. Oh, good. No, one of them I opened. Yeah, so we'll absolutely edit your PRs and stuff, and go ahead and work on that. But yeah, that's you know, we'll try to make it in the voice of Node and make sure it's consistent with, you know, what what the team is doing. So yeah, that exists. Other than that, I don't know if we have a ton of updates.
Yeah, I would maybe just say on this topic real quickly that we're trying to figure out certain things about like whether we should have like a digest or anything. Like I know, Michael, you're on the call and there's always stuff to, you know, the different meetings and things like that. We're trying to figure out the best way to promote those and maybe pre-promote those rather than post-promote and things like that. So I just wanted you to know specifically, Michael, that we're thinking about these sorts of things.
Yeah, no, that's good because you know, we definitely want to get the message out, and those seem to, like, it may not be huge numbers, but I still looked at some of them, and we can have like a couple hundred views for some of the sessions on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's you add them all up for across all the meetings, it's actually a fair amount of interaction. So I think it's good to make sure that we keep promoting those and letting people know that they're there and they're open, and because that's sort of one of our core values is like to make sure it's open and transparent.
Yeah, so Joe and I have been talking through a few different ways we can do this. And I think, you know, one way we're talking about is doing like tweeting out the schedule at the beginning of the week. And then, you know, thinking through various ways we can kind of thread the context together as kind of a batch rather than like incrementally doing it throughout the week, and having it be more noise for folks rather than signal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do think there's some value, like, you know, if somebody stepped up to be the lead of a particular working group or something, there's some value of helping them by, you know, like it's kind of like the releases that we've had recently. It would be good if the releasers who did the work were the ones who did the message and got the tweets. Because sometimes now I see that like exactly there's a bunch of other people tweeting it before they even have a chance, right? And
so that is actually what we do, and that's documented in that repo. Is prioritizing the people who are doing the work over it being like either the project's anonymous, like broad voice, or something else. So like generally when those releases go out, I go through and figure out who did the release or try to do my best on that. I might get it wrong, but it's a subset of 3 people, so it's not really hard. And go and amplify their voice rather than you know, my own bot or something else. So
yeah, no, that's good that you're thinking about that, because I think that's important, is to sort of make sure we involve the people who are doing the work and you know, promote those versus other things. So it's good you've got that on your radar.
Yeah, top of the radar, really.
That's important.
There's only 2 things I see in the tweet repository that maybe we could add more language around, which is like the use of images and GIFs and videos. Might be a thing. Also, like I don't see a lot of language around retweets. So like if you wanted to propose a retweet maybe, or whatever the thoughts around that might be, you might have already discussed it. I don't know.
Yeah, so this was brought up in Michael's stuff. The current tooling, I don't know, like I don't think the tooling right now currently supports retweets, but like if that's something, and you're totally right, that we could have better, maybe perhaps better language around this. One of the things that I've been suggesting people do, and I can document that here, is just putting that in the channel, the Node.js social channel in OpenJS Foundation. So that's a channel that Joe and I are actively monitoring, and basically having folks share stuff there as a way for us to kind of communicate as that team, is kind of what we're thinking around that.
And that's why they mentioned me, because I've been posting the updates to our to the various meetings that are happening in that channel. Is so. Awesome. But you're right that I did have that same thought, that having that suggestion documented. I mean, it's actually a nice low overhead way, right? Like as opposed to having open a PR or anything like that. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad solution. It just may need that some docs.
Right. Yeah, just more clear.
So
language.
I had some feedback on the social thing. Like I think not saying this as we should definitely take a look at it, but I think it would be a good idea to kind of sort of look for feedback using the Twitter account. Like, for example, asking people what was the last project they built with Node, or what was the last problem they had that keeps reoccurring in different Node projects. I think it would be a fun and more social way to use it than just how we use it right now.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of parts of that are what we're working on developing, and kind of we're thinking about that and trying to see how we can engage meaningfully with the community in that way. I totally agree with that. I also, one of the things I would try to avoid there is soliciting a bunch of feedback and then not having it be something that the project can act on or want, and kind of making people feel unheard. Because like, if we say, hey, what's something that you're hitting a pain point with, and then we're not able to actually meaningfully direct that to relevant folks in the TSC or something like that, or have them actually go and say, yes, we want to solve this, or anything in that thread, that's going to be a negative experience for folks, and something that I want to avoid. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it shouldn't just be a random request. It should be flowing into some team. Like if the diagnostics team had some questions, then you could flow the answers back to the team. Yeah, that's definitely a good point.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
what I meant is to not use that as a feedback channel, because I know this is exactly what you say. I'm going to reinforce that this is something that is going to happen. But what I kind of meant by that was to kind of resurfacing what people are doing with Node, not feedback style, but what are you doing with Node.js or whatnot. I think it has a positive impact on the community, sort of getting people feel like they are heard, or they get featured on using Node.js, or we might end up getting more of the community involved as open source contributors as well.
That's fair. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Basically, what have you worked on the last week type of a tweet, although maybe try to not be as generic as that. But yeah, I assume that's what you mean, and I totally hear that and get that.
Yeah, I think
encouraging people to talk about what they're doing and share, because that would actually be really interesting.
And I think to Tierney's point, the way that we could have it be not just like an open call and then have it not do anything, but if we, if Tierney and I were aware, obviously we're the social team, so we should be, but if we could respond to different people, hopefully all the people, and say, oh, that sounds great, or whatever, so that there is some engagement and not just this random call that doesn't have anything beyond that.
Something that might be interesting to consider, like with integrations between, like an integration between Twitter and Slack, wherever the meaningful dump is. But somehow it'd be ideal if there were a particular conversation about, that involves a particular working group, like to funnel the responses from, that particular tweet to a particular channel, like if it's within the website, if it's a tweet about the website, to have that end up in the website redesign channel, or whatever.
I think like I think the best way to do that would literally just be to paste the link, because that would be a lot of tooling that we'd have to custom build for that. And I quite honestly don't know if we have the ability to engage meaningfully in that way of like building tooling for that at this point, given engagement and way I've seen people be able to participate so far. That said, there is a channel called Node.js feed, now Node.js-feed-Twitter, which gets every single mention of Node.js, which there is a lot. So that channel has a lot of mentions, and we can basically capture it that way.
Yeah, and I think Ben, to Ben's point, I think maybe a way that we could kind of go down that path is if a working group or initiative has a particular question they want to pose. Number one, it's always great to have the person, from that group tweet it, and we could amplify it. But if people working on that issue are prepared to follow up on the tweet like say if it's a request for how to, so we're working on a survey for how to handle unhandled rejection promises. If the people working on that were prepared to respond to people that responded to the tweet, then it would be like some really good natural engagement that I think would be very valuable. So I think along those lines, we should encourage initiatives and working groups to consider the social channel a resource, as long as we are prepared to engage on any requests that they may have.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
How about a GitHub tag that something like like we have that agenda tag? How about something like that? We could probably use, for example, like I'm thinking of a very specific context here. Like in the web design, we have this issue or PR that I created stuck for quite a while, because I'm not a designer, and probably we don't have many designers on there contributing, and we want SVG icons for 3 different things, and with a flexible license. Maybe we could tag that issue for the social team, and they could tweet out that if you are a designer and want to contribute 3 icons to new website for Node.js.dev, you could totally do that on this link. I think that would be quite an interesting use case.
Yeah, and I think that's a good example. I don't know about the tooling that brings the tweets right into the issue, but I think if we referenced a particular issue and had a particular request, and the team working on that were prepared to moderate that tweet and the responses that come to it, that's exactly what I was thinking as well, and I think was a good use case.
And I guess I think that's a wonderful idea. I will be reiterate my caution around signing us up for plans like this that we generally have not been able to execute on in the past, just because of inability to dedicate time and energy to it. And not trying to be a downer, but like that is something that I have experienced, and if we can have someone who does that work, great. But until we can commit to getting that done, I guess I also think from what Ahmad was saying, my understanding, and maybe I misunderstood it, Ahmad was just asking if we could label something and have it be sent to the social team. Is that right, Ahmad?
Yes, exactly. So you could, automate that. For example, all of the org could tag particular issues for social team to look at, and they get aggregated in the social teams, GitHub repository, and they can just pick and choose and tweet something about them. But encourage that conversation related to these things should happen on GitHub, not on Twitter, because that would become, quite redundant and extra load. But for social team, it would be easier to, for different champions or different contributors or collaborators to just surface something for the social team, and they could later on decide if they want to tweet about that or not.
So the thing I'd say there is that thinking from the perspective of the social team, that then if someone puts a label on something, I have to go get context of why they put that on or what they want from it, that specific set of context, or I have to go I have to just say hey, why do you do this? And I think how we have it set up now basically is either you come and submit a PR, which you're writing the thing in you're crafting it in a way that's more effective to what you're trying to communicate, or you're sharing it in the social channel, which is getting it's opt-in, of course, but you also have to come share, hey, here's why I want you to share this, and that context then reduces the burden of it reduces the cycle of having to say, hey, what do you want from this? What is the actual outcome that you're looking for here? And so I think that's the approach I try to take with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, completely makes sense. Maybe if we could document that if you're going to use this tag, also make a comment regarding, bold social team, that what do you really want out of this particular issue from them? That would be, fun thing to do.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so I think that's the social team updates, and that's taken 30 minutes of our time. Well, in total, we're up to 30 minutes now. So any kind of questions on that at all? since this is kind of the first time we've talked about it. Cool. In that case, we can probably move. Oh no, sorry, Joe. You have OpenJS Foundation updates, and Michael too.
Yeah. So I actually have, fortunately, and I don't know if anybody knows this, but Jory puts together a really fantastic update on what's going on. Now, where the heck did that go? I just was looking at it. And I can kind of breeze through her CPC updates. There's a board meeting on Friday. We are, one of the main things we're working on is getting the board seats sorted. From the CPC perspective, we potentially have up to 3 board seats. There's the primary CPC director. There's like a secondary one as well, and then there's a third one that's tied to the individual membership program. So the first 2 we are, are active. The primary one comes from the CPC essentially directly. The second one was granted to the Node.js project for the first year. And, we discussed that beyond the first year and are going to make it more open to the entire community within OpenJS. So we're just clarifying some of that through documentation, and then we'll take nominations and process an election very soon. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. We need to get board approval on Friday and then can kind of move some things forward. Let's see.
And I guess the key thing to mention on that is like, earlier, the first year the Node project got one of the representatives, and that's not the plan for this next year.
Yeah.
And we discussed that before. I don't think it should be a surprise, but it was kind of just, if that was going to be the case, the ask was to let people know, and so that's the case.
Yeah, and part of the thinking there too, or just part of it, and that's natural, is that Node is pretty active in the work that's going on. So, it's likely that we would have a couple of people from Node volunteer. So there's still a very good option, very good chance that it would still be a Node person. But regardless, trying to breeze through this to not take up too much time. But one thing I want to point out is that the changes to DigitalOcean services for OpenJS Foundation projects, they recently announced that they're migrating their free for open source accounts to a credit-based account. So I think Node is one of the places that is used. So we want to just make sure that people are aware of that. We don't expect that they will get charged, but if anyone does get charged, if you're using DigitalOcean Droplet, let us know and we'll get that sorted out.
Certainly on the Node front, we've already had the discussion back and forth, and like the build, it's, as far as we know, it's the build team that manages those machines, and the message is it'll all be comp, so we don't have to worry.
Great. Let's see, reviewing, we want to go through a review process for projects and make sure that things are on track, set up an annual review. Let's see, scrolling through here, updates to CLA, to an Apache style, ICLA, CCLA is being worked on. We're fleshing out the individual membership program, which is something that's started in the Node Foundation and has been being worked on for a long time. But we have Sarah Chips as a champion there, and she's been doing really great work at moving that forward. So that's really exciting. The third board seat is tied to that, so that's also very interesting. And then kind of just working through the other things that are typical cross-project council work. I think that's it.
Okay, from the on the board front, there is a board meeting this week. I can't make it, but I'm syncing with Chris. There isn't anything that I know specifically that we need to bring from the Node front, but if there is, let me know. The one past ask was information about what's going on in the membership. So one thing on that front is GitHub has taken over NPM's membership at the silver level. And I just posted the link to the current members if you want to go take a look. That's all I'd have to add.
Great.
Cool. Do we have any other follow-ups there? Any other context? I think Joe and Michael are the only ones that update there, right?
Yep. I mean, as far as I know, if anybody has any questions, just let me know.
Yeah. Cool. I just updated the doc a bit just because there's I updated it in the issue, but not the doc there. So we only have 2 agenda items today. Or I guess moving into the agenda, we only have 2 agenda items today. We have the champion for the website. I'm currently blocking this because champions need to be ComCom members or need to have an active ComCom member as a liaison. We don't have that currently set up in here. And so that's a thing that we need to resolve in this, since if a liaison is, or if a champion is not a ComCom member, they need to have a liaison.
So I guess we either
that's
need to
something blocking
change
here.
that, or like we could change that. We could say it's fine not to have a champion, or we could try and bring somebody onto the ComCom.
Yeah, those are our options. So yeah, I don't know if that's something we're going to be able to resolve necessarily here. But that's a, it's a thing.
Yeah, how do we move the discussion forward? Do we need to have like a issue with those 3 options, or even in that issue, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on which approach we want to take.
Right. Rather than just having a hangout, like I'd be reasonably I guess we said we wanted to have a champion because then there would be somebody on the ComCom who could help
to report,
move things
guaranteed.
forward, right? So
right.
So it's kind of like, in my mind, either we think that's critical, and then we kind of need to make well, not necessarily the reporting, but I think in my mind was like the supporting the effort.
Yeah.
Because I guess where I'd go the other way is, if in terms of reporting, we could change it so that the champion is somebody who regularly comes to the ComCom meeting and provides an update, and I think we have that.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's if for whatever reason there's a problem with the liaison thing, I think there's enough crossover with internationalization that for some kind of time period, until we find someone who would like to champion, I would be happy to report what's going on in the website redesign.
Okay.
But yeah, what were you gonna say, Michael?
I mean, if other people in the website redesign want to show up and do that as well, like you could also be the liaison.
Yeah, right.
I like how you said that, Michael. That was very nice.
You're very Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the the French immersion I took for years a long time ago, right?
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to step into being the liaison, it doesn't like that doesn't necessarily mean you need to report it. But like if folks who are actively in there doing the work are, but just being there as a resource for them and being able to communicate their needs to the ComCom, if that's a thing that needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean,
if you were willing to do that,
I'm willing.
That's
yes,
fine.
I'm definitely willing to be free and open to be a resource for people to contact me about issues that they may have within the website redesign committee or a committee working group. But
initiative.
Initiative, yeah. Yeah, all the above. So definitely available as a resource. Would be, I know that there's going to come a time soon where I'm going to need to start going to website redesign meetings in order to understand the crossover between how we're going to create meaningful milestones for internationalizing stuff on the website. So I'm going to be there in some regard anyways sometime soon. So I think like it makes sense in this time period. And I guess we could revisit as time goes on. It would be nice to see
hey
Ben,
Ben, a quick thing, if you want, like I could assist you as well, because right now, like I help out with all the website redesign meetings right now, and I am always like at the ComCom meetings. So if you want, like we could I could fill you in if it's anything, and we could kind of do like a, we could take it offline, and I could fill you in with what's happening, what's not,
That's
and
awesome. Yeah, that'd be
yeah.
wonderful, man. Thank you, Divya, for offering that.
Yeah,
I really
absolutely,
appreciate that.
absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it.
So in that case, then Divya would be the champion, and Ben would be the liaison. If I'm saying that French enough.
A liaison, yeah, I think that's what
Liaison.
my understanding would be.
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds
Yep,
great.
sounds great.
And yeah, I just wanted to say, because I know there's at least one other initiative here that isn't that we weren't as strict, for lack of a better term, on this, but Tierney and I have been thinking about how we manage these things and want to be a little more, stick with these guidelines that we had set out. So I appreciate stepping up and everything.
Yeah. I mean, maintaining the standards or the precedent and the standards that we set, I feel like is often better than just having to shift them around when like there's one thing that's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Appreciate that, Joe. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, so it sounds like that could be updated, and then we can probably get it landed, right?
Yep. Yeah. If Divvy, if you want to update that PR and just add
Sure.
open source as the liaison, that would be great.
Okay, I'll do that right now. Thank you.
Awesome.
I'm going to be liaisoning all over the place these days.
Cool. So that one's done. Or anything else on that? I guess I should ask. Cool. I'll take that as a hard no. And the next agenda item is from Waleed. It is the one about the collection. We discussed this last week a bit, and basically generally in the meeting said we're okay with the suggestions there, suggestions, and are generally fine to move forward with them. We didn't really get any more feedback, so I'm going to say that that's generally approved. Is there anything else we want to add here? Wally, do you want to, any questions or any steps you have for us?
Yes, I was not in that meeting. Sorry, I just wanted thumbs up from Joe because we discussed some things in some weeks ago about how we can improve. But I think those things can be done separately. Then this step, we can move forward from here. And if we want to improve, like adding the blog to our new website, that can be discussed as a separate discussion.
Cool.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, then I'll move forward with this and add the changes as we have discussed in the issue.
Cool. Sounds good.
Thanks.
In that case, I'm going to remove the CC agenda label from that.
Yeah.
Just since it seems relatively resolved. But yeah, cool. Any questions, comments, thoughts, feedback on that one? Cool. Then we have hit the end of our agenda. Anyone have anything else they'd like to bring up?
Not me.
Nope.
Nothing new.
Cool. Given that, I think we can probably dip. Thanks everyone for coming, and we will see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.
Yep.
Talk
Thanks,
to
Jeremy.
everybody later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.